Well, welcome into the Check Writers Room. Thank you for joining us. We are three VCs on a journey. We're trying to do the same thing here, which is to back category defining companies and build generational wealth. We want to take you on this crazy journey with us. Hard things are hard, so there will be plenty of lessons and knowledge to share along the way. You'll get to meet the founders that we meet with, the ecosystem experts, the investors that are in our orbits, and plus you'll also get to meet some of the folks we aspire to learn from. Well, why us? We're three women, three general partners, three different firms with one mission, which is to give you the breakdown and to open up access to venture. Together, we have raised more than $50 million from LPs. We've invested in over 100 companies for sure, and we've supported thousands of founders. I'm Yasmin Cruz-Farine, co-founder and general partner at Visible Hands VC, a pure play pre-seed firm, investing out of our second fund and over 100 companies deep. There's plenty of VC podcasts, but among all the noise, there is a new voice that is still needed. So here we are. And with that, I'll kick it over to you, Shalonda.
Hey everyone, I'm Shalonda Armstrong, managing partner of 100KM Ventures. We're an early stage venture capital firm based in Washington, D.C., and we invest in two verticals, the digital or future of work and the future of health. And among these ladies, I'm the operator turned VC. So started my career off in tech, angel investor turned GP. And so I'm excited to break down everything from check sizes to valuations to the actual operations to actually go from early stage to growth capital. So I love it. Over to you, Sydney.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Thomas. I'm the founding general partner of Symphonic Capital. We invest in companies that are closing access gaps around health, wealth, and climate. The only reason why I'm doing this podcast is to hang out with my friends and talk actually about stuff that we talk about on the phone. So you guys are getting access to information that we share with each other pretty frequently and are just excited about democratizing that access and making sure that you get access to that information as well. Because, when I started in this business about 10 years ago, it was through a cold email. I emailed somebody, they opened up a door, that led to another door and another door and another door. And I think as this industry continues to grow, there's fewer of those folks who are willing to take those chances on folks who don't have a track record. And so we hope that this can be a part of your learning journey, and we're looking forward to seeing you every couple of weeks.
Love it. All right. So, ladies, you know me, I always have a hot take.
Yes. Give it to us.
All right. So, it's 2026. We've been in this macro environment for a while. And I think that, we just have to finally just say it out loud. These bridge rounds are bridges to nowhere. A bridge round was something that wasn't standard. And I think founders are starting to believe that bridge rounds are becoming the new standard. And I know, we look at the Carta data, Q2 of 2025, bridge rounds are up 16%, right? And we're seeing more and more of these bridge rounds, especially at earlier stages. But are these bridge rounds actually unlocking new revenue? Are they for a pivot, or are we just extending runway, but it's really a bridge to nowhere?
So actually, you're right, Shalonda. Early stage investors, we know that it's a very different reality at Series C than especially what I'm seeing at pre-seed. Mm-hmm. And most of the data doesn't even break down or delineate pre-seed or seed. It's just all bunched into seed. So it's really difficult to have a view. But ultimately, if you think about it by rounds, bridge rounds are more prevalent at seed to Series A than they are at Series C. So that means while bridge rounds are going up across the whole industry, actually more prevalent for early stage investors. Now, and the other thing, like this was the T for me, which is that graduation rate has shifted in the last year. And I think this is why there are more bridge rounds. Graduation rate went from seed to Series A from about 35 to 50%, depending on who you asked for historical probability, to in 2025 to 15%. So
Wow.
you like 40, like just call the middle-ish, like 40-ish percent to 15% means people are not graduating. They're not raising their next round. So what happens when you don't raise your next round? You raise a bridge round. And that's why I think we're talking about it more, because the historical probability is not what's happening in market right now.
Yes, I think seed. I do think is the new Series A. Seed rounds are, these $3 to $6 million rounds, and seed leads who I'm talking to need or are expecting these companies to have at least $1 million in ARR by the time they're going out for seed. If you raise your pre-seed, you're only raising $1.5 million. You don't even have a product yet. It's going to take you 6 months just to get like your product done and some access to the greater market more broadly. You won't get to $1 million in ARR in 6 months, most likely. Caveat is that we are seeing some of these AI startups get to 100 million in ARR in 2 years. I think that is not normal. I don't think that is like something that should be expected or aspired to for most companies. There's some additional feedback on that where it's like how resilient is that ARR? Is it all like basically people are signing up for a month and then canceling the next month because the next cool thing has hit the market? So I don't really think that's the goal, but I do think the additional flip side here is that there were a number of pre-seed funds that were launched in 2020 and 2021 that are holding on to dear life to continue to exist in 2025. Part of their ability to exist is reliant upon their ability to say, like, my companies are still alive, my company's got an up round. And so for them to participate in this bridge round while they're fundraising for their next fund is actually strategically really smart. There's just so many different incentives in venture where the VC's incentivized to do one thing, founders are incentivized to do another. And sometimes when those incentives don't always align, it creates this really weird stuff, like way too many bridge rounds happening that probably shouldn't happen.
And then let's be honest. When you guys think about the bridge rounds, how does that impact your reserve strategy?
I'd say the expectation for most pre-seed funds is that they actually don't have much in reserves. Because it doesn't really make sense. You should be using as much capital as you can to get that first shot on goal, unless to participate in this round that may or may not really materialize into anything. So when the founders need that extra capital, when they hit that bridge round like spot, they can't always go back to their insiders to support them. And if they do, it's not going to be a lot of money. Maybe they are able to cobble together 250K, maybe it's 500K. And it keeps them on this like fundraising hamster wheel because you can only do so much on 250K. You really do need to sit back and raise that like traditional large round to actually give yourself time and space to grow into the next valuation.
Yeah, I think, is this a red flag, or is this kind of where we are in terms of doing business? I agree, Shalonda. I really think that a bridge round sort of signals something's not going well. And I think participating in the bridge round, for me, the criteria is, has there been a significant shift, like a business model shift? Like we were selling B2B to B2C, and now we're selling B2G. And that requires the clock resetting and fresh capital. But if you need a bridge round because you are not capital efficient, and you need the clock, you just need more money and more time on the clock, there's never like the band-aid that is required, a couple hundred K, if it's an earlier stage bridge round, it's not going to work to solve the issues. And I think the cap table absolutely has to be completely on board because they need to be engaged on a weekly basis of helping founders hit these milestones to successfully raise that next round of capital.
I think there's also some caveat to that, right, Yasmin? Like, there are times, absolutely, that a bridge round is needed, right? If there's a pivot in strategy, things of that nature. But I think there's also this unspoken kind of language between VCs where if we're seeing a founder that needs a bridge round, but we haven't heard from you in 4 or 5 months, and then you're coming back saying you need a bridge round, and then that bridge is only going to last you 3 to 6 months, why are we doing a bridge round? I think the other thing is, what are we doing with the valuation cap? So if we're just marking up safes, when do we actually get to the price round? Because I am tired of seeing cap tables with 5 and 6 different safes at different valuation caps, because it just makes it harder and messier for that Series A investor to come in.
I think completely agree. And we are in such a fundamental reset in early stage venture right now because, I'd say 6-7 years ago when the safe was created, it was amazing. Everyone was so excited because it then decreases the cost of actually getting a round done. These founders and investors don't have to pay these lawyers like tens of thousands of dollars to just get a deal done. And I think, we just maybe took it a little too far. It's like, you want to give me some money? I'm a founder. You want to give me some money? Cool. I can mark up this safe like literally in 5 seconds. Like I just go to YC safe, whatever that website is, .com, and I'll have it to you in a minute. And you will wire me then $50K, $150K, $250K, and we're done. You don't have to report out how many of those safes you've raised across which different price point until that Series A or that priced round. Like it is just so easy for founders. It's almost like too easy.
I encourage all the founders really understand how the safe note works and how it converts, because it's not always in your favor when it actually converts to a price round. And I think that's what gets lost in the details with a lot of these safes.
Well, I think focusing on specifically a takeaway is the dilution part of it, and at bridge rounds, the dilution kind of is more, I would say, in the favor of the founder than kind of, giving up ownership in a full round. But I think the point here, what are the takeaways? Like, what should founders listening to this take away from this? Like, I think a big one is be capital efficient, right? So you can plan to stand on your own for longer and not need a bridge until you're ready for that true next step up.
Yeah, I would say, the takeaway I would tell founders is make sure you're communicating with your investors way before you need to raise that bridge. And also be able to tie the use of funds for that bridge of what is it going to unlock revenue-wise or milestones to get you to the next full funding round. And if you can't fully articulate that, then reconsider if you really need to do this bridge round.
Yep. My takeaway is one of the expectations that we have as early stage investors is that many companies will fail. That's the point. We are taking a very high risk very early on. And so if this decision around bridge, if the alternative answer is shut down, have that real conversation with yourself, with your investors, with your friends, with your loved ones. I think that one of the things about launching a company is it's often such an emotional journey. And so are you raising this bridge because your life's brand is so tied to this thing that you can't imagine shutting it down, even if really it's time to call it? And I think, that's also part of being a leader is like you call it when you need to call it. Like you just need to make really difficult decisions sometimes. And so I'd say just run through that first, and as well as do you need to raise this bridge? It's like, do I actually need to shut down my company?
And I also think that when you are able to show as a founder that you can almost disassociate and be intellectually honest when you still have money in the bank and you can actually wind down or seek a strategic partner, then sometimes, you know, your GP, the investment team invested in you. And if you can show that leadership, they may say, like, oh, well, as soon as you take some time to yourself from a mental health perspective, I'd love to see what you're going to work on next, because there may be, kind of an offshoot or deepening that you can do with that investor on what you've already worked on together. But how you end the relationship will impact if there is a next relationship.
Woo, y'all are giving words today.
So we're going to transition to the next portion, which is, would you write the check, right? And we are the check writers room, so we have to dig into some deals together and talk about it. So,
Who has a deal? Who has a deal?
I do. I
All
have
right.
the last deal we did,
Okay.
and Jamie Jin Lewis gave me permission to talk about it. So shout out to Jamie Jin. She's the founder of Wiggle Room, which is software for daycare providers. And what I loved about it is this is a classic VC play right now, which is take a legacy business that is sort of building out its tech stack right now and transform it and change behavior. For me, as an early stage investor, these are all very difficult things to tackle. I have to believe that if anyone's going to solve it, it's going to be you. And she's been described as a local among tourists building businesses in this space. And that's because Jamie Jin grew up in a daycare in Virginia. Her mother was a daycare provider. And so she lived these, pull your hair out, deal with toddler, being a business owner and managing compliance issues. And then she's worked on it. And one of the learnings coming out of working on it in the past was, while we think of daycare, many of us come to it as parents or knowing that there's a demand issue. Like, how can I find daycare for my child? And really what Jamie Jin saw was it's a supply side issue. Like, we have to keep the daycare providers that are in business and help them do their job easier so they can focus on our little ones and not on running a deskless business. So all of those things kind of, were amazing elements of what I like to see. And then the cherry on top is that of her customers, and she's had a good amount of customer sort of tests, like how sticky is this software for them? No churn.
Yes.
Zero.
Amazing. Love to see it.
So once you have a customer base that's like, I can't live without you, then call me and I will write the check.
So what she's building for daycares, it sounds like this is not parent centric, but it's really around the daycares. And just talk me through, is this around kind of keeping them compliant, how state regulations, how is this operationalizing the day-to-day for daycare?
Yeah, one of the things you have to get comfortable with is the current product is focused on enrollment. And so you could easily come into this and think, oh, that seems like a once in a while thing. But actually, your roster of who's enrolled, these children, impacts your compliance. So it's something that these daycare providers need at all time, because when a health inspector comes, which happens, on a certain cadence, there needs to be certain ratios of staff to the children that are in the daycare. So this ratio and other elements that you're tracking right now are the key product. ultimately she has to sort of expand the product offering to become kind of more of an OS for daycare providers and business in the box style that, we love the Shopify kind of thesis that VCs love. But right now, I see it as an insurance play. And when you talk to daycare providers, they say, this cannot go away. If this went away, I don't know how I would remain compliant.
I would love to understand kind of some inside baseball, how you guys thought about underwriting this deal and get to that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was around getting comfortable with the go-to-market and her approach. And then on the tech side, talking to the CTO on the product expansion, because that was critical for her to go after the market. So that's kind of how we oriented some of how we underwrite it. I mean, one thing I'll just add is at Visible Hands, we actually do a Series A readiness and look at the metrics to Series A, even though we're pre-seed, because we want to make sure that your trajectory, and that, founders love to have very ambitious financial models that, like, when you say you're going from, call it 100 customers to 2,000, like, what actually happens? Are you moving to additional states? Are you just tackling the state that you're already in? Are you increasing the price? Like, those, we want to just see you do the math, show your work.
Yes. So I met the founder. Jamie Jin is such a burst of energy, and I know that she is also doing some advocacy work. I really love when a founder can talk about how almost their hobbies impact, support the work of their company and back in. I thought that was a strength of hers. Would love if you could talk a bit more about that too, and if you agreed or how you thought about that.
Yeah, I think also you could see this as, oh wow, for example, in New York where she's based, Mamdani administration's working on ways to make daycare more affordable. When they're thinking through this work, they call her.
That's amazing.
You want to know that even if this doesn't work, that they can hang with the best of them.
Do you remember My Village? It came out in 2016. It's an old company, and they were tackling building childcare centers, the infrastructure of building childcare centers. And then there's Wonder School, that's kind of in the similar realm, trying to decrease the cost of launching a childcare center by helping some of these home care centers grow. I am still looking for a more purely software play that decreases the cost of launching a childcare center. I think that Wiggle Room could become that, but I don't think they're there yet. And so I'm trying to, and maybe what I'm looking for doesn't exist. This is a very labor intensive business. Maybe there actually isn't a software solution that can do this effectively. But that's my current thesis that I'm working off of. There needs to exist, or there could exist somewhere at some time, a software solution that is almost like a business in a box. I sign up, I have it, I launch a childcare center, I'm able to go, I get to focus on the kids, and I get to keep it moving. But I don't know, maybe that's too aspirational. I think especially right now, with the crackdown that we're seeing on childcare centers across the country, and the Somali-owned childcare centers they're coming after San Diego too. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was in the news recently. They were in Minnesota and now they're in San Diego. And it's just kind of what do we want from these people who are just trying to help these children and families? And so maybe there's also something inherent about this industry that is so political that the software can't ever just be the wedge.
I'm still trying to find the direct link between making the child care businesses more efficient, using software for some levels of automation, but how is that going to actually decrease child care costs, right? Is there a correlation there?
Yeah, I think what was important to me, because I have two babies, was not to look at this from the parent perspective. And I think once you have a kid, you start to stakeholder view this business from a parent. And the key is to look at this from a small business owner's perspective because they're woefully underpaid. Like these people, like if you're talking about, oh, let's bring the cost down, it's like, well, you have the human capital unless you want robots taking care of your child.
I know.
And they're already underpaid. They're largely immigrant. They're largely women. So I don't really love the framing of like, well, pay them less, and maybe there are other costs, but the margins are already so thin that once health inspectors do find them, they often close because they can't afford the fines and the litigation. So I have to think more about the overall unit economics and how that ultimately can impact a parent and the cost that they're paying. But Sydney, back to your point, I am excited because I don't think wiggle room is there yet, but I think that's where they're going, and that's the product vision. And I'm excited to be on that journey and help make that possible for the wiggle room team.
I think the part that makes this deal interesting is the TAM is infinite because we will never stop having babies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to see more and more child care providers popping up because there is just not enough, period.
I think the seat deficit is millions. Like there are millions, like something, millions fewer seats than are needed. And like I said, like your kids can't go to some sort of, school until they're 5. So there's the gap between 0 to 5. And then there's the whole kind of workforce aspect of this enablement of doctors who are on call. And so there's a 24-hour daycare, construct.
All right. So if we have others that want to get our perspective of if we would write the check, what's the best way for them to get a hold of us?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. You can call 617-500-8284 and tell us about the company that you are building or want to build, and we can talk about it on the show.
Love it. That's the first time I heard the number. I thought we were going to take Mike Jones's number, but I guess that wasn't.
Why? I still don't know who this man is. I think
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones. Mike.
Truly have no idea, and I don't did he have a number that was interesting? Okay, because remember the Alicia Keys number, and I liked that number. Remember, and Do You Know My Name? She had a number in that song.
Oh yeah, in the beginning with most stuff when No, this is we'll play it for you, but I love that for you, Sid. And
I was going to say, Sydney, your homework is you have to figure out who Mike Jones is, okay? And you have to figure out what the number is.
Is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
all right, let's get into the next segment.
Okay, cool. So the next segment is focused on a story that we're tracking. One of the places that I really like to get information is called The Information, because I just think that tech is a very insular place where a lot of high quality information is actually not shared publicly on purpose. It's a bit of a hoarding system where whoever has the most information is the most powerful. The Information has the ins with, I think, the right folks in VC to actually share out more high quality data of what actually is going on. It is a really ridiculous business a lot of times. This article I thought was particularly fascinating. It's focused on how focused on the most recent layoffs in tech. You might have seen, folks who are listening might have seen that tech has experienced quite a few layoffs recently. And when I say tech, I mean the FANG companies like Facebook, Apple, Netflix. And their analysis was actually that every time these mass layoffs happen, the roles get filled again, but they're in different seats. And so what it is not actually a full-on layoff, it's actually a restructuring, which I think actually points to what we're seeing in this like AI economy more broadly is like folks don't know what thing is going to get like automated. They don't yet know what like human could be replaced by an AI agent, but they're preparing for that future, and so they're maybe laying off that like third tier marketing person, hoping that Canva will fill in some of the gaps. And so, but then they might rehire that like headcount somewhere else, which could be in, I don't know, maybe high quality graphic design, maybe it's like an engineer. And so, just thought that was really fascinating that, and like particularly resonant that we're in this restructuring, it feels like, from an industry perspective, and wanted to get your guys' feedback on this too.
Yeah, I think this is on a couple different points. I think one thing that we're seeing right now is there's this invisible unemployment that is not getting enough conversation. And I'll talk you through kind of where I'm seeing it in tech. And it is entry level and then the senior level. Those are the folks who are getting impacted the most, right? So it is hard to get an entry level engineering job right now. And I'm getting pinged left and right from my network of how do we place these recent college grads, and they come out with from the top universities with a computer science degree. They need an engineering job, and they're just not available right now. And I do believe that when we're seeing this reduction in the senior leadership, director and above, it's really hard for them to find their next role. And so I do think that this is a unique shift in the workforce that we've never experienced before. We're going to see in the next kind of 18 to 24 months how this all plays out, because, who does get to stay in the workforce, and what does upward mobility look like now within corporate?
There are a few things that I'm thinking about. One is the impact of vibe coding and how that might shift engineering teams. There's still a requirement to have humans in the loop, but it'll be interesting to see how that shifts. I feel like we hear less, and I don't know, maybe if this is my corner of the world, about designers, but, and UX, UI, and kind of that work for. So it'll be interesting to see kind of in that function too, how these market labor realities play out.
I think this is a unique opportunity for early stage startups, because in a former life, I was one of those folks that was in big tech, right? And once you step away from Big Brother, and a lot of folks don't want to go back, right? And so I think right now there's a lot of talent available for early stage startups, and if you can identify those that truly want to build and bet on themselves, it can be an extremely fruitful opportunity for a lot of these folks right now. So I think that's kind of the silver lining with this, is that early stage startups now have more talent available to them more than ever.
Completely agree. I also think, so none of us live in the Bay, which I think is not actually a coincidence. I think that what we have found is that like there's a lot of information and resources that can be abundant to you when you're in the Bay, but you don't need to stay there forever to continue to leverage those relationships and that information.
No, and I think the other part of that, I can echo that, Sydney. I'm in DC, and we have seen a whole industry flipped upside down in less than a year, right? I think what has never been talked about, but was always known, is that DC was the only city in the United States that did not experience recessions in the same way, because we have the federal government and the ecosystem around that. And we have seen that that's been flipped upside down, and the impacts of that as well.
And you guys have snow right now.
Let's not talk about the snow. Listen.
It's, yeah, productivity. Well, that'll make you laugh. So, with that being said, is that what is making you laugh, Shalonda? What about you, Sydney?
So, the thing that's making me laugh right now is the fact that every time I get on the phone with somebody, they only have terrible things to say. Like they have been locked in their house for a week, or like they can't take a flight somewhere, and I'm just like,
At the beach.
I have an evil laugh over here, literally at the beach. Yes, I was at the beach a few days ago.
What about you,
Yeah.
Yaz? What's making you laugh these days?
Last night, because I was in the parent Hunger Games. Apparently, at school today is Valentine's Day for 22 kids, and everyone needs to bring something. And I realized this at 9 p.m. Well, all the moms are gonna like not include me in their group chat because I gave them the worst thing ever, slime.
And I think the last thing, thing that's making me laugh right now is our reaction to Bad Bunny's performance for the Super Bowl. It was amazing to see him up there and enjoying himself, to see the part of the country who has not been recognized, for them to be acknowledged and for them to be seen. And people's reaction to that. And this is across the board. We listen to reggaeton. We listen to Afro beats. You can't say that you didn't feel not one drum when he was up there performing.
It was so beautiful.
So that's what's making me laugh this week.
And you know who's going to have the last laugh? Roger Goodell, when he increases his viewership and he can have a meteorite contract that he was going to sell, like increase, because he's got a whole new fan base. So
100. Guys, this was so much fun.
but before we go, we want the audience to participate on our future episodes. Drop us your burning questions or drop us your company or company idea. Ask us anything. Preferably leave a voicemail so we can play it here. You can text us to this number. It's 617-500-8284, 617, shout out Boston, where I'm from, 100-8284.
Love it.
And it'll be in the show notes too. But it's been real. Until next time, ladies.
Chatting with you guys, ladies.
Good job.
Take care.
That's the Check Writers Room. Special thanks to Natalia Skoko for editing. Subscribe to our newsletter and view show notes at checkwritersroom.com. Leave us a review wherever you are listening.